Are you in Benin City looking for a place to refill your gas cylinder? Then look no further. Efe Biogas is an alternative to cooking gas and more. With Efe Biogas system, it transforms organic waste into renewable energy. This happens naturally with the help of batteries that are placed into the system to help eat the waste and in return leave natural gas that can be used for cooking, pumping of borehole, providing light and lots more. And so with this system installed, you eat well, live in a clean environment, and you save a lot of money. For inquiry, please call 0808-424-1913, 0708-347-3750, or 0915-967-9853. Or you can locate us at number 6 Dubsogie Street, Baisige Police Station, Second East Circular Road, Benin City, Edo State. Efe Biogas, na baba.
Sas, how are you?
Fine.
Where's your daddy?
He's bathing.
Go and call him for me.
It's a carpenter. Like Mama Iru.
6 decades and 2 years of freedom from colonial rule, Nigeria has had some successes. She has gone and is going through several challenges since independence. Issues of insecurity, good governance and economic uncertainty are some of the major talking points for Nigerians at this point.
How has the journey been so far? What is the level of political awareness and citizen education, especially as Nigerians head to the polls next year? What is the way forward? These are the issues this edition of Midweek Connect will address today. And don't forget, today is World Teachers Day. So we're going to be channeling some time to celebrate teachers today. A very good morning to you and welcome to the program Midweek Connect. My name is Ufoma Esekine.
I'm Agatha Egwari Ojo. Very good morning to you. Welcome on board.
Yes, Agatha.
Happy Teachers Day to all our teachers out there.
I think it's still okay to
still very fresh to say Happy Independence. We wish Nigeria better years ahead. You know, in prosperity, peace, unity,
and progress. Yes. And so we shall be looking at that today, and of course, like Agatha said, Happy Teachers Day. Today is World Teachers Day. We shall be looking at some issues as they affect teachers today. I hear the teacher's reward is no longer in heaven.
Yes, it should be here.
It's here.
We are here today because we were taught by teachers. So wherever they are, I know our children didn't go to school today because to observe this day. Wherever they are as a teacher, I know that your reward is here and also in heaven.
Yeah, but I must say that you and I are also teachers. Yeah, you know, we teach
in
our
our
kids.
Own way.
Yes, in our own way. We teach our kids and all. Yes. And so that is what we shall be looking at today. And of course, like you know, Midweek Connect, we have our main segment, and that's where we shall be addressing these issues for today, and that is the discussion segment. We also have that segment where you can call, ask your questions, share your thoughts with us, be a part of the program, and of course, like I always say, our Kickstarter for the day. Next debates.
All right, now the Chief Army Staff Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya says the combat service training for officers is to tackle insurgency, kidnapping, banditry, and other forms of criminality in the country. The Army's chief stated this at the Made in Nigeria Army Combat Service Support held at the Nigeria Army School of Electrical and Mechanical Engineering, Aseme, in Auchi, Edo State.
Of its kind in the Nigerian Army combat service support exercise. Though we've had to always support the tactical phases of the various of the combat arms. But this one has been a very good one, being well organized, and it is in line with the vision of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahya. The Nigerian Army fight against insurgency and in the defeat of bandits and all manner of criminals that we have, because it will also enhance the logistic support system in the Nigerian Army.
And meanwhile, the General Officer commanding 2 Division of the Nigerian Army, Ibadan, Major General Aminu Chinade, says the Army is committed to the security and safety of the nation, urging officers to abide by professional conduct of the Army. Major General Aminu was speaking at the 4th Brigade Nigerian Army Benin City while touring army formations under his jurisdiction.
You must refrain from indulging in any acts that will portray the Nigerian Army in bad lights. You must be professional in your conduct and the execution of tasks, and you must work closely together with other agencies and stakeholders within your domain with a view to contributing effectively towards addressing the myriad security challenges that we have.
Away from security matters, a renowned nutritionist of the Department of Biochemistry and Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics of the Ambrose Ali University, Epoma, Professor Marshall Aregbuji Azeke, says it is good that government controls the operation of food supplements to ensure their products comply with Nigeria's health policies to ensure healthy living for the people. This was at the 95th inaugural lecture of the university.
Their nutrition benefit, but because of their health importance. And we have these foods all around us. We should try to de-emphasize taking in processed foods.
It's a very, very useful topic going to help us, particularly in regards to health, the importance of functional foods to actually help to redress all the illnesses that people have because they don't stay on very good diet.
All right, Fuma, that's the news tidbits.
Okay, so we'll go on a break now, and when we return, we shall have our guests who are already in the studios, and we shall be discussing the journey so far, Nigeria's independence, and of course, World Teachers' Day. Do stay.
Join us every day on NTA Benin Network Center, Channel 7, VHF. Star Times on Channel 103. You can log on to our social media handles: YouTube, NTA Benin, Facebook, NTA Benin, Twitter, NTA Benin 1. For breaking news, call our news desk on 091 535 59648. NTA Benin, the award-winning station.
Do you live in Aduawa and its environment, or you need a conducive and open field in Aduawa for your wedding receptions, birthday parties, annual ceremonies, family or corporate events in a serene and conducive environment that is close to nature? Then look no further. NTA Benin Aduawa is the place for you. NTA Benin Aduawa has a large field for all your other events and ceremonies. Also, at NTA Corporate Headquarters, TV Road, we have a state-of-the-art, fully air-conditioned, ultra-modern hall for all kinds of indoor events with a standby generating set to ensure constant power supply. We also have the NTA Pavilion for all your outdoors events at the same venue. Guess what? Our prices are affordable, locations are easily accessible, venues conducive and highly secure. Our outside broadcast van is available 24 hours and can broadcast your event live. And above all, you can air your event on our award-winning programs like Events and Style. Wow, what are you waiting for? Grab this opportunity and have your celebration in a grand style. For inquiries and bookings, please call NTA Benin, the award-winning station.
It was really a tough battle. We were 29, and I think we were about 2 women.
I couldn't sort of buy the equipment as quickly as I went, but I thank God.
In Nigeria, I became the first lady that specialized in psychiatry.
When I won my first case against the senior advocate,
Were there challenges? So many of the men folk wanted to take me out of my business.
Have you any event? Weddings, birthdays, parties, burial, coronations, inaugurations, cocktails, convocations, dedications, religious or corporate events, and you want to showcase in a grand style with interviews, documentaries, highlight in glamour, events and style? An NTA Benin Diary program is the right platform for a wider audience. Showing on NTA Benin and also on NTA Benin YouTube channel for viewers home and abroad to enjoy any day, anytime. Wow! Contact us today at NTA Benin Marketing Department, TV Road, Benin City, or call the number on the screen. Just let us know ahead of your program. Events and Star crew will be there no matter the distance. Events and Star, highly affordable with unlimited value.
All right, thank you for staying tuned. If you're just joining us, you're right in time for the main business for today. We are talking our journey to nationhood journey as Nigeria marks 62 in the 62nd independence anniversary. Also, we'll also be doing a little bit about Teachers Day today. And don't forget, we're streaming live on our YouTube channel, NTA Benin. So wherever you are, you can be a part of the program. And the time will come when the phone lines will be open for you to call in and make your comments, ask questions on what we are saying today. But as always, we'll kick off our discussion this morning with our backgrounder. But before that, our guests are seated here. We have a former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Dr. Sagio Bayuwana. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
All right. We also have a regular here, Nuruddin Asunogie, lecturer with the University of Benin. Good morning, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right. So let's take his backgrounder now.
October 1st, since 1960, when Nigeria secured its independence from Britain, it has been a ritual of celebrations of sorts. Sometimes the celebrations are loud, some other times they are low-key, depending on the mood of the country. This year's symbolic celebrations across the states and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, many believe are no exception from the previous ones that were held in the past by successive administrations. Meanwhile, it is the last Independence Day celebration for President Muhammad Buhari, whose second and last term in office expires May 29, 2023. However, as it is everywhere, Nigerians are said to have diverse opinions regarding the state of the country 62 years after it became a sovereign nation. There are optimists who believe in the potential greatness of the country and the gains made over the years, despite different challenges. At 62, many believe that Nigeria will continue to get better, especially in her political processes, where there are improvements in the Electoral Acts. These key players believe is a new dawn in politics, giving birth to political awareness. This week's edition of Midweek Connect is looking at Nigeria at 62 and the way forward.
All right, thank you for Kafo for that backgrounder. Doc, I'll start with you. It's been 62 years of nationhood. How would you describe, or what would you describe, how would you describe Nigeria at 62?
The prospect of independence that was formally marked on October 1st, 1960, was to be characterized by freedom of our country from foreign domination. I wish I could say we have attained that. But the truth of the matter is that we have not. Before our contact with the colonial powers, yes, we had our different enclaves But in such enclaves, we determine what to produce. And I think it can be said that our people were not hungry. You know, our contact with the colonialists started, if you want to leave aside the slave trade era, when they opted to set up a government that brought us all together. By and large, they determined what we had to produce. Rubber, cocoa, cotton, granite. To feed the industries in Liverpool, Manchester, and other such like places. So there's a way that brought about a dislocation. We were producing, we were compelled to produce, not first and foremost to meet our needs. So there were consequences of that, as far as our ability to feed ourselves, was concerned. So unfortunately, since 1960, we have not addressed that. As a matter of fact, there has been shifts. All of a sudden, they said they didn't need our rubber anymore. The so-called granite pyramids, were accumulated because we produced. Those who were producing granite for were not ready to come and pick them. So all of a sudden, the rubber tapper say, "Oh, the buyer no longer comes." You can imagine the economic consequences of that. Even when the pattern changed, okay, they say, "Oh, Nigeria has crude oil." That crude oil was first and foremost intended again for the international market in its crude form. When we were producing cocoa, our people could not really afford chocolate. We were producing rubber. By the time the rubber came back in tires, the rubber tapper could not afford to replace his tires as needed. And so on and so forth. Now we are exporting oil in its crude form for processing outside into the various products derivable from crude oil, starting from kerosene, petrol, diesel, lubricants, and all of that. In 62 years, this whole regime of subsidy, we still export our petroleum in its crude form. In 2022, all the refineries are down, and import these various products, starting from oil itself, lubricants, brake fluid, petrol, diesel, which have become unaffordable right now. So that freedom, that control over our economy. It's Kwame Nkrumah that said, "Political independence without economic independence is sham." And unfortunately, we have not had, governments that have appreciated this issue sufficiently to address it. Now we are talking about maybe private refineries, when 4 or 5 refineries of ours, I would say, are deliberately left to rot.
So you are saying now that...
sorry, Foma, we'll come to some of the issues he has raised, but Mr. Nuruddin, can you have your opening remarks, your thoughts about Nigeria at 62?
Well, thank you. He has given a beautiful and graphic picture of what things are. Yes, it is true that in 1960 we had what you refer to as political independence. By 1900, there was an amalgamation of a space. This space was not operating in a vacuum. It had meaning, it had significance only to the extent to which it was populated by people. But there was no amalgamation of the hearts of the people who domiciled this society. Regardless of what those who gave us political independence had intended to do with us, they were successful only because there was a failure to amalgamate the hearts of those who were involved. By 1965, 5 years after we had had independence, Korea had her own independence. When you look at the two societies, the Nigerian society, the Korean society, it was obvious that you could, on the basis of Hebrews, that will find justification, say that South Korea was most likely going to sponge on Nigeria perpetually. That by the time Nigeria is there in space, South Korea would still be in its antiquated state. But the story is not the same. The reason was that you had a people who appreciated the need to come together to maximize the benefit of finding themselves in one political space. And what was it that they did? They took the issue of education very seriously. At the different levels we had operated before they came as colonial masters, it was deeply appreciated that leadership was not atomistic. It was marked by an aptitude that tended to synthesize. And so people were not operating at diverse whatever. They were not disparate. We congregated. And what South Korea, for example, did to drive further the fact that leadership was never atomistic was to deal with the issue of what was critical, which was education. What was it they did with their education was that they needed to say, okay, fine, education only became education only to the extent to which it battled the emasculation of the space for critical thinking. Only to the extent to which it impregnates you with the impervidity, the intrepidity to do an interrogation of what represented assumptions. And for you to fly off at a tangent to, as it were, do a self-critique. Like he observed, we were producing what we had no need for, and we were buying what it was that we had need for. In the 21st century, by whatever, we are still doing just that. Our refineries are not working. So it becomes a thing of shame when, for example, you say, oh, we spend X, Y, Z. When you say we spend X, Y, Z, and those who have made money in the society of South Korea, for example, made so because they had deepened the economy of their society. Those who are money bags in our society today are importers of containers. They are importers of containers. The billions that they have, not a consequence of that which brings about a backward-forward linkage that every economy requires to grow and ultimately develop, but it's because that they bring finishing product. What does that imply? You create the kind of job that the outside society needs, that guarantees for that society's security, and you take what should have been here out, and what you get here is discombobulation at the very best and outright war, which explains why we are in a society that, well, all that you find is anarchy, whatever direction that you turn to. And so it explains why today OPEC, for example, has given us 2-point-something million barrels of crude oil a day. Nigeria is unable to produce beyond 900,000. And that 900,000 cannot even service the debt that you owe. But the fact is that the additional 1-point-something million that is being produced is stolen. All the tankers in Edo State and Delta put together can't take the quantum of the oil that is stolen every day. It will mean that except you are practicing diablerie, that oil is taken away by those who ought to ensure that it was not taken. And this, unfortunately, is taken by those who colonized us for their own good and to our own peril. So these are the challenges that we have.
So, in other words, we are only independent politically.
It's not even correct.
Seemingly.
But it's the same story every year. For 62 years we've been on this. What doctor, what is it that we lack?
The victims who have been hopeful, who have, so to say, left governance in the hands of those who have aligned their interests with those who want to keep us perpetually as appendages. What the Nigerian ruling class has done is to see how they can profit from that scheme. When we talk about subsidy, I think that is the word. The cost of taking Nigerian crude oil from Nigeria to wherever the refineries are, it's an avoidable cost. The cost of refining that crude out there, we wish that job was done here, but it's costs. The cost of bringing it back to Nigeria in its finished products is costs. So there's a group of people, let's call them Nigerians, who now confront the government and say, look, this is the cost of these fuel products, landing costs. I'm in business to make money, so I'd like to sell these products at a figure, a price that I will fix. And the Nigerian government says, no, but my people cannot afford this. So let's reach a compromise. You keep the price at whatever it is, 140, 160. The difference between that and what I would have sold it for, you give it to me. We were told by the Minister for Finance that that's going to be, how many trillions? 6 trillion. So the question, who are those who are benefiting from this scheme? Certainly the governments know who they are paying, but they're in the shadows. And the victims have been onlookers. Well, that may be an overstatement because our people have been fighting the near anarchy that characterizes our life in Nigeria. Even the, what do you call them, bandits, the kidnappers, the armed robbers, the scammers. There's a level at which it's in reaction to what obtains. But rather than this anarchical, individual mode of resistance and seeking a way out, we need to say, wait a minute now. There is the African Charter on Popular Participation in Governance that proposes in the trade unions, the professional groups, an opportunity to contribute to the formulation of policy and implementation of policies as far as the governance of public affairs is concerned in our country. That is not being utilized now. So by and large, what we have in Nigeria is a situation where the victims, the masses of our people in their organizations and professional groups, we are not playing our role. We are not holding governments to account to ensure that the policies that are implemented are those that benefit the generality of the Nigerian people. So as it is said, those who profit from what obtains will not, out of the goodness of their hearts, simply say, oh, we've had enough. It's the victims that must say, hey, enough is enough. We are going to assert our rights. Sovereignty belongs to the people. And this is what we want in this country. If we, as the people, confer the authority on those who hold public office for a limited period of time to serve, they have a duty to listen to what we want.
Mr. Sunoge, haven't we seen this in recent times? Because I know 2 years now, you're having people coming out to, speak out in areas where they are not happy with. Aren't you seeing progress being made in this direction?
Well, you see, the challenge is being able to, in the first place, identify who the victim is. Because pathologically, a number of us are lean in integrity. I'm only a victim. Some of us carry fictional wrongs, the baggage of fictional wrong. I'm only a victim only to the extent to which I operate at the periphery. The moment you relocate me to the center, is a different ball game. We have the challenge because, first and foremost, loyalty is not to the system. How many of us genuinely feel that we are Nigerians? How many? This is the biggest challenge. Because if you, in all honesty, feel that you are a Nigerian, why would you, for example, want to develop another society at the detriment of your own society? Why would you, for example, encourage labor to grow in other society when yours is shrinking? What is in this fuel? We have had people talk about whatever. I don't get the message of what subsidy is. And those persons assume the saddle of power and spend far more money in funding what they say they did not understand. And yet they are unable to explain to us, why did we do this? And all of those who have shouted the most to say, hey, this thing is not doing this, by the time they cross the divide, they are on the other side of the table, they are dead silent. And so that's the challenge. And so you now find when people begin to say, hey, we must change the status quo. We must change the narrative. When you take the bigger picture of Nigeria, for example, people will say, I'm being discriminated against. In the smaller circle where they operate, they do not feel that there is anything wrong about domination. There's nothing wrong about dominance. And so it is this double speak that is the biggest challenge. In society, whether it's in South Korea or other society, where we have found persons who are not even Nigerians, who are more worried about the hemorrhage that is taking place in Nigeria. We have found people who are far much bothered. And today what is far more alarming is the fact that you have kids who do not work, they loathe work, but they want to live a life of opulence. They drive the biggest of cars. And so you set up institutions to checkmate them. All that you do with such institutions is that you make them become rich, whether they are ICPC or EFCC, rather than fight what you were supposed, they become themselves cancerous to the system. This is the reality because we have facts to all this. So until and unless we come to a state where we begin to say, hey, we belong. He was AG of a state. Excellently well he did. But you know, he was not going to continue because that was not the kind of music they wanted played. That was not the kind of music they wanted played. And so, for those who were friends will come around him, you could get a bottle of pure water to drink. Or you going home, he dips his hand in his pocket and say, take us money. Where was that money going to come from? But for us, he was a bad friend. He was a bad, so he retired to not what he used to be because he would have probably done better in practice than all of the 4 years he put in there. So he didn't do well because he never moved to a bigger house. This is the thinking of the majority of us. Once we benefit, there is no problem. And we're not going to go further that way.
Okay, now let's open the phone lines 081-1295-1755 and 081-4969-3115. Yeah, you have it displayed on your screen. Call in, make your contributions on the program.
Now, there's some school of thought that say that we probably were not ripe
for independence.
For independence, because it was more of selfish reasons. The political elite, they wanted power, you know. So let's go for independence, and they were not really like you just said that we're not after the interests of the nation. What would you say?
Well, for those who took independence, I mean, those who were leaders at that time, you can't beat their records. They may have had their differences, but they had program for growth and ultimate development. Tell me, the space that was occupied by Awolowo, for example, was a space that today comprised...
So, hello.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning, we can hear you. Your name, please. Hello. Okay.
That comprise the Edo Delta and all the states that you have in Southwest today. That was the space occupied by Awolowo. Education was made free. Structures that they put in place are structures that these different governments are finding difficult to even maintain. Resources, we didn't have the kind of homogeneous resource that we have today, and yet they were able to do all this because you had leadership that was committed, leadership that didn't regale in the defalcation of the common patrimony. What you find today is that people don't struggle to become governors or to become this because there is any value they are bringing to the table. They are just interested because of what we could corner to
So, is it majorly a leadership problem that
of course, you see, leadership will galvanize the people. Once you have the correct leadership, the people are easy to galvanize.
Now, how did we come about wrong leadership? Is it that the founding fathers could not imbibe, some form of education in the people that were going to take over from them, or what? In terms of that nationalistic way of thinking.
Well, if I may just address the first point you raised before we go to the second one, to imagine that those of us here in Benin, of the Benin Kingdom, as far back as the 15th century, we had diplomatic relations with Portugal. Obaisige visited Portugal. The Ohun Lokun of Uoton spent years in Portugal. The best that is said of Benin is what was recorded by the Portuguese in terms of what they met. It is the British, in their attempt to crystallize the lie about a civilizing mission of necessity, that had to say, oh, there was nothing here, we were barbarians and all of that. So if we had been able to put together a system that surpassed even standards in Portugal in the 15th century, how on earth can somebody say that in 1960 we were not fit to govern our affairs?
Ourselves.
Don't forget that when Chief Anthony Nahoro moved the motion for independence, it was countered by Sadana and his clique. Oh, we are not ready. And at the end of the day, it is those groups that were least involved in the agitation for independence that the authority was handed over to. What is it that made Ghana ready in 1957? Ghana got its independence before Nigeria. So this late in the day, for people to still be saying, oh, maybe we are not quite ready. But quite honestly, what we were seeing then, and even these arguments now, because I know there are those who say, oh, maybe we should bring the white man back. How do they put it? The hand of Jacob and the voice of... it's still those... Well, I don't want to delve into issues about religious diversity. By and large, Islam had come in from the north, making its incursions, and then the colonialists came in from the sea with Christianity. But somehow, they found an accommodation. One would have expected that, oh, the British would have been more enamored by Awolowo and the rest of them who are Christians. But I'm just trying to say that the seeds of divide and rule, irrespective of religious inclination, were sown that far back. And somehow, if you look at the 1966 coup, the kinds of things said about that set of leadership. For instance, why would the Northern People's Congress, as a political party, concerned only with northern people. Even the most progressive, Northern Elements Progressive Union. So by the time you had such institutions, it was like those divisions were so entrenched.
Hello. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Please, your name and where are you calling from?
I'm coming from Sobaka. What we are talking is a past government. The government who is not listening to somebody.
Hello,
the
please tell us
character
your
of
name
Nigeria
first.
will so square. That is the bad character. By that time when the UPN, it was a free book. There is LPN will go away for where the C is and from where the paper. The government of Nigeria is bad. By that time it was very good. I'm telling you. Let peace here and vote for better person who will encourage Nigeria with better future. Because education is first. If you want to maintain all the whole, you see overseas where people go there, they will have resources of make Nigeria good. I don't know why we don't follow all those ones. I'm just begging you, let us share and vote for better government and let Nigeria go. That is my solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Doc, I believe that it's not too late to make amends to retrace our steps, but we are heading towards another election year. How would you gauge the political awareness of the people?
I think it is rising because the very day oppression reared its head in our society, that was the day resistance also came into existence. So it has been the struggle between both that has defined all the progress that has been made. People still look at the NSAS revolt as a landmark protest, at least in recent times. And there's a way in which that appears to be fueling the agitation right now. The level of popular participation and speaking out, not just through words, but through action, I think it's on the rise. The 2023 elections portend great prospects. I hope that those in control of institutions will yield to popular expectations and decisions. If they believe that it can be game as usual, manipulation and all of that, reading of results that have no bearing with votes cast, the stage may have just been set for a new wave of protests that have not been witnessed in the history of this country. So I think we are making progress in that regard. Issue based, and when we talk about issue based campaign, they must take a bearing from the kind of things we are discussing. You, the journalists, you have been most astute in saying that words are cheap. This is not the era of outlandish promises without being able to address the question of how and what is the role of the people in this process. Because by and large, our intellectuals have been sidelined. I thought we used to have an Academy of Sciences. When last did the government at the national and state level consult with our intellectuals? I said, look, you spend all of your time in studying systems. What do you think about these issues we are confronting right now? But because the process of governance right now is to create business opportunities for friends and family members, the bulk of our people are kept out. The best brains are kept out. So these ills that have been identified should be the yardstick for measuring those who say they want to serve. How do you relate to these issues in terms of the promises you are making? And then the people ourselves, we must also be ready to say whether they like it or not, we have a right to insist because sovereignty belongs to us. So part of our own job is also to train our people. The trade unions, for instance, how can you be formulating a medical policy without the Nigerian Medical Association being central to that? How does the leadership and the membership of COREN, registered engineers, what are their views in terms of the infrastructural challenges that Nigeria faces at this time? These various contractors who tar roads, build schools, build hospitals, what special technical skill do they possess that our Ministry of Works cannot be equipped and staffed to meet? In such a way that what we spend right now, what we give to a contractor right now that will do a substandard job, why is it that our Ministries of Works cannot build schools for our children and build offices and build hospitals? So if you are talking about maximum utilization of our resources and available hands, rather than what it is right now, a master's degree holder in civil engineering is driving Uber. How do we solve the unemployment problem? Our people are dying from malaria. Every day you see appeals going out. Oh, my son needs this. Please help. If an Awolowo can implement that policy on education that gives the people of the Western region an advantage today, if he can do it then, why can't the present generation of leaders not only take care of education, but take care of health, take care of unemployment? We saw what Ambrusali did in implementing that UPN program. Not only did he build the schools, he knew he was going to require the manpower, new teachers. That's why he set up the colleges of education. And those who couldn't enter into the university, who were trading in the markets, he was even paying them to go to college of education. So that way we created the pool of teachers to realize that project. So if we could do it for education, why can't we do it for health? And so there is no way of addressing the unemployment problem outside service to the people. And I think these are the kinds of issues that we should confront those who are aspiring for one office or the other at this time. How do they relate to this?
All right, let's dovetail a little bit from this discussion. Today is World Teachers Day. We have an educationist here. I want to hear his thoughts on this day, Mr. Nuruddin.
Well, if you want a society to grow, then you would have to treat the teacher well. There was a king, Philip of Macedon. He did a letter to one you could take as the professor emeritus of his time, Socrates. And what was it he said? He said he rendered countless thanks to the gods that the birth of his son synchronized with his reign, that the son will come under the cerebral tutelage of Socrates in order that he become worthy of the patrimony, that is the throne he was to come into. And who was that son? That was Alexander the Great. And when Alexander was campaigning to conquer the known world, he got the intimation that Socrates was to make public all of the private encounter he had had with him in terms of scholarship. And he felt so bad. He did a letter to him from the battlefield to say, hey, I had always wanted to tower an intellectual colossal above my contemporaries. Not just these worldly things. I'm afraid that if you made this public, these persons will begin to challenge me in act of celebration. And Socrates said, no, only those who had come to the master to drink directly would have it the way you have it, not those who read second-hand whatever. All that they probably would get is what you could refer to as vicarious excitement of the true knowledge which you have gotten. That was the extent to which they had placed emphasis on what? Oh, traditional institution, but the king was interested in who becomes my successor. He must become. If you read the scripture, God will say, the Bible, for example, say they are not equal, those who know and those who do not know. I mean, the Quran says that. And the Bible says, it says, knowledge will liberate you from what? Set you free. So in every society, like I gave you the example of South Korea. What South Korea did, numbers of challenges. India had done that. What do? Let us take education. Once we do this and dynamize the critical mass, society is good to go. But what is that you get today? The bulk of those you find in the teaching profession are not persons who are passionate about it in the very first place. Because once you become passionate about teaching, it will be that once you have passion, it will mean that you will be prepared to pay even to be able to do that which you are passionate about. So you don't just come into it. The teacher is one who is able to connect with his inner land scale, that is his own self, able to connect with the subject he teaches, and able to connect with the student. Once there is a disconnect between you and yourself, you can't connect with the subject, you can't connect with the student. And once you are unable to do this connection, obviously you have nowhere going. The parents would give life to a child, but who gives the well-being is the teacher who does that. Give you life, fine. The well-being is what the teacher does, because it's the teacher who molds the character of that individual and makes the individual useful. But today, teachers are treated in this society with asphyxiating disdain, and it explains why we are where we are. And everybody who manages to even go to school only sees education as a scam. And so, how much is he worth? What kind of vehicle did he come with? Oh, you want to marry my daughter? What work does he do? He's a teacher. In Japan, the highest paid people are those who are teachers, particularly at the primary school level. And so, when you are recruited, it is because you are found fit and proper, one who has the passion for that job. And so, it's the biggest pride that you ever could have. There can be nothing, forget whatever you people will say in journalism, there can be no profession better than that of the teacher. This is number one. Every other could be competing for space after it.
And they produce the lawyers, they produce everybody. Yes. So there's something to be said about their conditions of service and how that impacts on their productivity. These days, you find teachers that cannot afford the school fees of their own children. So too many distractions, but having said that, there's something to be said about the content of what is being taught that I know of. I don't think, our own generation was born before 1960 independence. Since we came up, I don't know of any curriculum redevelopment to look at the content of what we are impacting at all levels. Rather, at a point somebody felt that we don't even need history. People without the knowledge of their past, it's like a tree without roots. We have talked about the heights attained by our ancestors in Benin. We may not be able to say this of all parts of Nigeria, but at least this we know. Yeah. To be told that perhaps the first part of the world where they had street lights was in this very Benin city. It may have been weak in oil basin and all of that, but it served the purpose. The relationship between leadership and followership. If you watch I'm not saying we should go back to the age of kings and all of that. The king was the leader, but he spoke last. He listened. The followers made all the propositions. He picked from them and then reverted back to them. Is this not what you say you want? Everyone says, yes. It is done. There was no compulsion in the digging of the moats. Baogola. So when we are looking for the way forward, there's a lot to learn from the past. And it's our teachers that will serve as the bridge.
All right. Thank you so much again. Happy Teachers Day. Here we'll call it a wrap on the program. I'll see you next week.
Speech Lab, a finishing school to groom media practitioners, public speakers in government, private and political circles, and anyone desiring to speak right and sound right.